A new version of NotebookLM by Google has been released, and I think it's the right time to test it and solve one of the biggest issues I have with my highlights I've been collecting. After using ReadWise for 3 years and building a history of highlights, I've been thinking about how I can get better use out of them. At the beginning, I converted highlights to reference notes as part of my Zettel casting process. But now, with the introduction of ReadWise Reader, the amount of highlights has exploded. So I wondered what will happen if I connected my ReadWise highlights to Google's NotebookLM, and I was surprised with what I discovered. In this video, I will share how I connected ReadWise highlights to NotebookLM to make it easier to analyze the highlights. I'll also share the 5 key features of NotebookLM that I actually used to reflect on my highlights, and the one feature that blew me away. By the end of the video, you'll be able to load your highlights into NotebookLM and extract ideas, queries, and highlights and organize them to get the most out of them. Let's get started. Connecting ReadWise to NotebookLM is a breeze. The ReadWise team has made it easy by setting up a Google Doc export that is saved into your Google Drive. Step 1. Export your highlights. First up, open ReadWise website and choose Connect and Sync and select Export Highlights. From here, you can choose Google Docs Export. You may need to give access to ReadWise to access your Google Drive. From here, you have several options. I have selected Export Automatically to be on allowing new highlights to be added automatically. I've selected Send to a single document in your drive, so all the highlights appear in one document. Otherwise, you'll have many documents to load. You can also choose which highlights to be exported, but I've switched that off and export everything, including book highlights, tweets, and articles. Press Start Export to Google Doc to start the process. Depending on the amount of highlights, this may take some time. After your initial export, you'll see a ReadWise file in your Google Drive. Step 2. Log in to NotebookLM. Now let's hop over to NotebookLM. Just log in using your Google account. Step 3. Create a new notebook. Once you're in, it's time to create a new notebook. Click on the Create New Notebook and give it a name that makes sense, like ReadWise Highlights. Step 4. Link your notebook to the exported highlights. Here's where the magic happens. Add your new source to the new notebook by choosing the Drive option and uploading your ReadWise Highlights file. With that, you're all set to explore the features NotebookLM offers. If you select on the source, it gives you a summary of the highlights and key topics that are covered. That's it. You're now ready to dive into NotebookLM and make the most of your ReadWise highlights. Each time you want to refresh the source, you'll need to resync it with Google Drive. I'm planning to use a similar method for all my Obsidian permanent notes. Subscribe if you want to see how that went. Let's dive into how NotebookLM features can make your research smoother, smarter, and more efficient. When it comes to uploading content, NotebookLM feels different to its counterparts. You can upload pretty much anything: PDFs, Google Docs, and even web links. Once everything's in there, NotebookLM dives in and analyzes the content for you. It pulls out summaries, highlights the most important stuff, and even suggests topics you might not have thought about yet. It's like having a research assistant that never gets tired. Here's an example. Say you're working on a YouTube video about the top 10 time management apps. You got a PDF from a book on time management, some Google Doc notes where you jotted down a few ideas, and a few web articles you found to help. Normally, you have to comb through all of this manually, but NotebookLM, you just have to upload it in one go. Unlike many other AI tools, that might pull information from random sources across the internet, which can sometimes be irrelevant. NotebookLM sticks to what you provide. So if you have a document with all the ratings of the apps you've reviewed, you can use this as a source of information. One of the coolest things about NotebookLM is its interactive chat feature. It's like having an assistant right there, ready to help you out whenever you need it. You can ask it questions about your documents, get summaries, or even dig deeper into specific topics that catch your attention. It makes the whole research process feel less of a chore and more like a conversation. For example, when I'm trying to find a new video editing app to review, I just ask it to list the best options out there based on my highlights. It doesn't stop there. If I follow up with something like, okay, but which ones are compatible with macOS. It tries to narrow things down, and if it can't find that info in the uploaded documents, it'll actually let me know instead of just guessing. That way I can add more sources or refine my search. It's not just about answering questions, it's about guiding you to the right answers and making the whole process feel interactive and dynamic. For someone like me, who's always looking for ways to streamline my workflow, this feature feels like a perfect fit. One feature I really enjoy with NotebookLM is the notebook guide. It comes with these handy pre-made formats like FAQs, study guides, or even a table of contents. It's like having a shortcut to organizing your thoughts and ideas. What really stands out for me though is how it goes beyond just organizing. Research for me often feels like opening one door only to find 10 more behind it. So many questions pop up that I didn't even know I had. That's where NotebookLM feels like a total game changer. It doesn't stop at summarizing. It actually suggests related questions and topics that I might not have thought about on my own. Whether I'm stuck or just looking for some fresh inspiration, this feature has been so helpful for me taking my research in directions I wouldn't have normally considered. It makes everything feel less overwhelming and way more exciting. One feature that I thought was a gimmick was a podcast feature, but I must admit this is something that blew me away. The podcast talked about how I was reading business books in 2021 and highlights I made in Kindle, then switched to 2022 where, like most people, I focused on personal development and apps that helped me improve my workflow, which was about the time when I started the YouTube channel. It then talked about 2023 and how I switched to looking at AI apps that help me speed up my workflow.
All right, so buckle up, everybody, because today we are going deep on something we all crave. Better productivity and a workflow that doesn't feel like a constant uphill battle.
I like it.
And for this deep dive, you have given me a treasure trove of ReadWise highlights.
Yeah.
From, wait for it, May 2020 to December 2024.
Wow.
That is like a time capsule of productivity wisdom.
Yeah, it's really cool. What's fascinating is that we're looking at not just a snapshot in time, right?
Right.
Like May 2020, that was the beginning of the pandemic, everybody
Yeah.
working from home, but like we're looking at the evolution of productivity thinking.
Ooh.
From classic principles to the newest tools and techniques.
We're not chasing the latest fad, but we're figuring out
Exactly.
what actually works over time.
Yeah.
The best.
It's about understanding the core principles that drive productivity,
Right?
and then finding what works best for you, your own personal productivity recipe.
Ooh, I love that personal productivity recipe.
This podcast did not only replay my highlight, it also asked me questions about it. Why was I using a particular app? Why did I highlight a particular topic in a book? In the latest version, there's an interactive mode that I've started testing but is still in beta and lets you engage with the AI podcasts. Listening to AI generated podcasts triggered so many questions and memories that I wanted to explore. One of the hardest parts of research, at least for me, has always been keeping track of where everything comes from. You gather so much information and it's easy to lose track of the sources. That's where NotebookLM really steps up. It automatically adds citations for everything it summarizes or pulls out for you. What I love about this is it's not just about making your work look professional. It's about knowing you can always trace things back to the original source. Whether I'm writing something important like a YouTube script or just trying to keep my notes organized, having that extra layer of reliability feels like a huge weight off my shoulders. The best part? It means I can focus more on the fun parts of research, exploring new ideas and diving into interesting topics without worrying that I forget where I got a piece of information from. It's such a small thing, but it makes a huge difference. In summary, NotebookLM stands out for its different take on AI research. The podcast feature, which I thought was a gimmick, turned out to be something useful and informative. I strongly suggest you try it out if you have a lot of highlights to work from. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep optimizing and stay practical.